Hey friends, Alvin here. We are continuing our interview series, and today I am joined by Jon Matthews, who is the Director of Youth and No. Let me try that again. Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministries at Kingsway Baptist Church. Did I get that right, Jon?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, welcome, Jon. Thanks for joining me on this call.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And so, as you might have noticed in some of the other interviews, the first question I've asked, and I'm going to ask you the same thing. Since March break, what changes have you noticed in your youth or students?
Yeah, I think there's kind of been two different main responses that I've seen. It's been really interesting. There's some of the youth that were like really active and would be coming out on the regular to kind of our regular events or regular meetups, and they haven't shown up much online at all, to like Zoom calls or things like that. They're responding to the small group leaders when they're sending text messages or messages through another Instagram, other social media, but they haven't been showing up the same way. But then there's others who weren't that active, that are really leaning in. They're wanting to be part of community, wanting to jump on calls. They're asking, hey, when are we doing a movie night, or when are we doing something else? And they're kind of being more active, or at least just as active, because they're already very active as they were before.
And so you had just mentioned there's some activities that some of them seem to gravitate towards. So can you give me examples of what kinds of activities are they asking for?
Yeah. There's definitely some that are just like interested in doing some fun, maybe events, maybe more fellowship kind of events, where they, hey, let's do a movie watch party, and then in the chat we can be talking, or hey, let's play some Kahoot kind of games, and just do like, hey, we're just looking to keep making connections with people, since I can't be out like with friends, and doing things like that, so to help facilitate those. But then there's also some that we've been able to dive in deeper with. I think over the last kind of month or two, people are interested in, hey, like, how do I make faith real? Like, even in this time, if being a Jesus follower is a legit thing, how do we actually live it out, even during this time of personal space and isolation? How do we live that out? So we've been able online, since they don't have to worry about parents driving them, or arrange, they don't have any other plans. They're like, hey, like, let's get together and we can really dive into some of these deeper questions, of faith and life. Yeah.
So what kind of questions do you find them asking nowadays?
Um, I think there's some questions of, hey, like, how do we respond? How do we act, and kind of what can we do? Because right now, like, their house is sort of this one space, where they're at, but it's like, how do we still keep, showing Jesus' love to friends or neighbors, even when we still don't want to pass anything off to them, or we want to be responsible that way. How do we live out our faith when we can't really, like, leave our homes, or leave, like, the bubble of people that we've kind of decided that we're going to connect with? Those have been some of the biggest ones, I think. Yeah.
Hmm. And so a moment ago, you were mentioning in terms of some of the activities, it sounds like there's a lot of different ways to carry them out. So what platforms, tools have you found useful so far?
The biggest platform we've been using has been Zoom, just because a lot of people are very comfortable with it. They're using it, with other things, and it has allowed us to split into the breakout groups. So that's been helpful for small group times, to connect it in with a kind of a smaller group, and be able to ask more questions and have better conversation. Even when during our kind of regular meetups. But also we started up a Discord group, On the Discord kind of chat, we have a server that's just for people that have been invited by our youth group or friends of the youth group. And on there, we can make different channels where people can talk about different topics. Because we really felt like, okay, we need a way for all of the teens to be talking throughout the week and really create that sense of community, since we can't be together for community. We had a pretty high value on that before, before youth group every week. We used to have a meal together, so that was a great time for them to chat and hang out. But that hasn't been happening, and allowing families to kind of have that time before, so we're not bringing like plates of pasta and eating before youth group anymore. But how can we still foster community even in this time?
Cool. And so it sounds like there have been a lot of things that have worked pretty well for you. What have you found, maybe struggles or things that have not maybe turned out the way you hoped it would?
Yeah, I think it's those people that aren't engaging, and just trying to find ways to, hey, how do we still stay with them? There's not like the times passing on a Sunday, or I'm not able to like go into the school where I had been kind of volunteering before with the group, so there wasn't kind of natural times to run into people that same way. And also kind of getting that feedback loop of, hey, how are people really feeling? What are their needs? Because I haven't wanted to bug them over, hey, do the survey. Hey, what's going on? What's your biggest thing? But I still, I want to do tangible things that are actually going to be helpful during this time. So getting that feedback loop and finding how to connect with all the different students when they're on different apps and in different ways, or maybe just having screen fatigue and don't want to connect, are I think my two biggest struggles right now.
So I'm wondering, like a second ago, you just mentioned in terms of screen fatigue, because obviously, I mean, a lot of things are happening online now, e-learning, a whole bunch of other stuff. So what are ways that you're helping your students navigate screen fatigue?
Yeah, we haven't tried to, we're doing programs and events, but we don't want to like overload the schedule and say, hey, be here, 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 and here. I know some people in an effort to create community, that's worked for their groups to do many things, but we want to stay connected, but not kind of overwhelmed with, hey, here's too many things. And we're also trying to incorporate practices or encourage them, to have quiet time in some of our talks, and just as we're saying, like, hey, spend a little time like offline, or spend a little time, in prayer away from things, or just even outdoors. So looking at some of those spiritual practices of, getting fresh air away from people, but how can you go for a walk, or how can you do these kind of things? We're also planning soon to have some people come in to talk about mental health, and that's, and that will be part of that as well, on how do we take a break from some things that it seems really important right now to stay connected, but what is best for overall health, including mental health, and we've got a series planned for that.
That's cool. Full disclaimer, my boy's in your youth group, and I know he would love being on Zoom with you guys every day if he could. But no, I'm grateful that you're able to at least help and try they're carving out some time, right? That's away from the screen, so that's great.
Yeah.
And so while you're navigating all this the last few weeks, as your role as director of youth ministries, how has this whole thing impacted your day-to-day stuff?
I think it's been nice in some ways, being able to, not having a commute to meet with people. People are really ready. Hey, like, let's talk online. Whereas before it was like, oh, well, let's meet up, go to a coffee shop, which, I loved. Like, I love seeing people in person. But being able to have connecting with people in all different ways and mediums has been great, whether it's been, over like texting or messaging or video. So I think people have been more mobilized that way, whether it's been, volunteers or church leadership or just general people in the congregation. I did work from home a fair bit before, but it's been really interesting kind of having everyone that I live with. So my wife and we live with another couple and their daughter who's 3 years old. So all of us at different times work from home, which has been great. But we're all always working from home, and the 3-year-old's not at daycare. So we're kind of figuring out, okay, how do we, make sure that she's, learning and having fun and not feeling like she's being kind of really rejected or just thrown in front of a screen all the time. So, sometimes it's actually, I think, been a benefit for me to like, oh, sweet, I don't have a call from 11 till 12. Let me do a dance party with her. And I think that's actually kind of helped me out as well. Kept me sane, or else maybe I would have just kind of been like, let me work for 14 hours and only break for dinner. So yeah, it's changed in that way, but I think there's been some benefits that I've been finding too.
So, I mean, these last few weeks, obviously, it sounds like you've been there's been a lot of things that you've adapted with, and a lot of things that you've picked up. What would you say is a key either insight or skill, as you're looking not just for the next coming few weeks before things maybe even loosen up from the lockdown, but what are things that you're thinking that you're going to carry over on a long-term basis?
One of the learnings that I've been having is about the production value of things, and that it doesn't have to be super flashy or really best. I sometimes try to be too much of a perfectionist on things, but I've been learning and hearing from people just in this culture where, like, Instagram stories or TikTok videos, people are used to seeing videos not done perfectly. People kind of messing up and stumbling. So and I want the content to be great and the words to be true, but don't have to compete on that level of like buying a professional camera or getting a microphone. People have been, the youth have been very forgiving on all that, and are willing just to kind of to roll with whatever we've got, and they've really seen kind of the heart on what we're trying to do, and they care more about those connections that we're making.
And so, as we're about to wrap up our time together here, what's a word of encouragement or a word of wisdom that you would want to offer to those who are watching right now?
When this first started in the beginning of March, someone told me on one of the calls that I kind of was on as we were trying to get all this information, they said, remember, it's more about people than programs, and that's going to be even more important right now. And I think that's really stuck with me over the last couple months, that it's more about connecting with people, creating community, than it has about putting flashy programs up and make sure I had all this. So, whether it's an impromptu prayer time or a movie night with just a couple of the youth, or little text messages to parents just to check in or say, hey, I was thinking about you, you guys, this today. That really has helped shape things as we've been, and really I want to remember that going forward.
No, I think those are some helpful words and reminders for us. So, Jon, I appreciate your last few moments. Thank you for your time, and thanks for doing this for us.
It's been my pleasure.